Results of the Fall Yearling Swiss class. First goes to entry 5282, Corlin Mighty Star, exhibited by Caitlin Bell. Second to 5148, RJMAR Wisdom Kitty Marie, exhibited by Ryan Martin.
Two extremely high quality fall calves here in the Ashier show for me. Today it's the darker heifer that's going to take the blue ribbon home. She's so clean and dairy. I love her comeliness and dairiness to her head and neck. I love the straightness of lines, her hardness of top. When you get behind her or in front of her, you see the extreme openness and depth to her ribs. She's so square, so balanced, and tracks out on an absolutely beautiful set of feet and legs. And she's just in the right body condition today. She kind of uses that advantage to place over the second place heifer. A real massive deep-bodied heifer, a short-aged heifer too, who just doesn't have the width and squareness in her rump structure, doesn't walk out in quite as clean a set of feet and legs, or have the body condition of the first place heifer. The two beautiful Ashier fall calves, a really tight competitive class. Congratulations to both exhibitors.
Congratulations to Carly Dow, the winning full heifer calf in our Ashier show with entry 3862, Heinemann Tuxedo Sriracha. Second is entry 5176, Vows Pride Jazz Expression, exhibited by Caden Valentine.
One heifer here in our Jersey Fall Yearling class to round out our Jersey heifer show here today. A heifer that I think it can withstand some more competition at some other levels. A really stylish individual. She's very upstanding in that front end, has a lot of uphill run as she's moving throughout the ring. She also tracks with a sound set of feet and legs with a lot of openness and depth through her body, and has a strong udder promise.
Her winning fall yearling in her Jersey show is entry 3871, Knobview Valiant Abbey, exhibited by Carly Nowell.
Helping take a break here. So thank you all. As you can see, the show order is posted here. And for those of you who were here last year, you remember how we did like a dual judging table. We're going to start with breeding. We're going to always start with our senior bucks, then go to senior doe, and then senior buck and junior doe. We are going to direct you when to bring your rabbits up and when to be on deck. As the judge is judging one class on this side, we're going to have the next class loaded and ready. This is not to rush, it's just to keep the flow, have everyone have time to come up and be ready to show their rabbits. So, of course, if you have any questions, I forgot to introduce us. I'm Tatiana Burrier, and this is Katie McGuffin, and we're your rabbit superintendents. And again, we're so excited you all are here. We hope you have a wonderful morning, and thank you. And showmanship is happening during the show. So what we're going to do is we're doing showmanship outside where we would go for the shed. I thought we moved it out there. But we were trying to find a perfect location for it. So I think the final destination for showmanship will be out that back door. There's a little sign that says Rabbit Showmanship. Exhibitors for showmanship, you do not have to have an order. You look when your rabbit is being shown, you figure out what's a good time for you to go out, and then our wonderful friends from Howard County Hair Raisers 4-H Club, they are our writers, and they are our showmanship judges. Let's give them a round of applause as well from Hair Raisers. Thank you, Ms. Wilson and friends. Howard County is a wonderful Frederick County supporters. So they will be out there, and whenever you're ready, they'll direct you, and anyone who wants to try showmanship who did not sign up is more than welcome to try showmanship today. Don't worry about that. So without further ado, we're going to get our show started. We hope you have a wonderful experience and enjoy the morning. Thank you so much. So first up, we're going to have our senior our bucks on this left side here, and senior does on the right.
Just so you know, the camera's right there.
Had its debut yesterday. Oh, nice. Congratulations. Sounds good. All right, let me turn my microphone. So I'll be ready to place these, yeah, and the other ones too, because they only have one each. So
Yes, I did see that.
okay.
All right, so we're going to be placing our Black Dutch Senior Bucks right now. And this guy's going to be fourth. He's actually a very nice rabbit. However, at an ARVA show, he has what we would call a freckle in his whisker bed, which would normally be a disqualification. So he's just going to be fourth today, but he's very nicely typed. He has a very nice length to his body, very nice width into his shoulder and midsection, good depth over that hip. He's a short, compact rabbit. It's good representation for a Dutch. He has a good placement to his saddle, transitions really well into his undercut. He does have good roundness into his cheeks. They're nice and even, very nice length and evenness to his stops. It's just that little freckle that he has in his whisker bed there. And he's a little open and unfinished in his coat, which is pretty typical in the summer months.
Nicole, can you please tell me your tag before you do all that? Because I missed all of those comments.
His ear tag is DT.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, number 3 is going to be it looks like maybe a 3.8 HD.
I have a 30 HD. 30.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, he just had a fold in his ear when they tattooed him. Alright, this guy's just a little bit longer in body type. He's longer through that shoulder and into his midsection. He also lacks a little bit of width through that midsection. He does have good depth of body, just lacks the width to balance. He does have a very nice placement to his saddle directly behind the shoulder. Transitions really well into his undercut. He could be a little bit more rounded into those cheeks. He just tends to get a little bit squared as he approaches the whisker bed. But he does have a very nice length and evenness to his stops. He is unfinished in his coat, but he's got a very lustrous coat. It usually means they're very well conditioned. Number 2 is going to be a BPTR. It's a nicely tight rabbit, good length to his body, very nice width and depth to balance. He could be a little bit straighter and even in that saddle marking. Does have good placement to it though, nice and clean in that undercut. He's just a little bit more narrow in that glaze marking on his head. He does have good roundness to his cheeks. Pretty good length to his stops. His left stop's just a little bit off bias, a little bit dirty, so he could just be a little bit cleaner. So our first place is going to be a BPDA. It's a nice tidy rabbit, very nice length to his body, very nice width, good depth over that hip to balance, good placement into that saddle, transitions really well into a nice even undercut. He's got very nice evenness to his cheeks as well. The right one is just a little bit squared, but the the left one's got nice roundness to it. Very nice length and evenness to his stops. He actually has probably the best finished coat in the class as well. So he is our first place Black Senior Buck. Okay, and then we only have one blue senior buck, so he's going to be first place for his class of blue senior bucks. His tattoo is J25BP. It's a nicely tight rounded as well, nice length to his body, very nice width and depth to balance. He's got a good placement to his saddle, right behind the shoulders. Transitions really well into a nice, even, clean undercut. He could be just a little bit cleaner in his cheek markings as he approaches the whisker bed, and they could be just a little bit more rounded. They do have a tendency to square off just a little bit. He's a little dirty in those socks as well. They can be a little bit cleaner, but nice length and evenness to them. Very nice blue color. So he is first place for our blue senior bucks. Okay, and then we only have one chocolate senior buck as well. His tattoo is NS3. He's also going to be first for his class. He's very nicely typed. He's got such a well-balanced body type. He's short, compact. He's got very nice width and depth of balance. He's got a nice muscling and firmness in his flesh condition as well. Good placement to that saddle. Nice clean undercut on him. He's got very nice roundness and evenness into his cheeks. He's got a good blaze. He does get a little bit narrow towards the tip, and he could be just a little cleaner around that neck, but he's got very nice length and evenness to his stops. Just a little opening, unfinished in his coat today. So he will be first place for our chocolate senior bucks. So we're going to start placing our Dutch senior does. I'm going to start with the blacks. There are two of them. So this one is going to be second. Her tattoo is Fox, F-O-X. She has a good length to her body. She's got great width of body. Really nice width through that shoulder. Very nice width into her midsection. She just lacks a little bit of depth over that hip to balance with the amount of width that she carries. So she just tends to be a little bit flatter in body type. However, she's got a beautiful saddle marking. Very nicely placed. It's nice and clean and even. Transitions really well into that undercut. She is just a little bit higher on her right cheek, just looking for a little bit more balance in those cheek markings, but she does have very nice length and evenness to her stops. She's a little bit open and unfinished in her coat today. So first is going to be a C5RWD1 or CSRWD1. Very nicely typed though. She has a very nice length to her body. She definitely has that depth that I was looking for. It's a very appropriate top line for her high point to fall directly over the center of her hips. She's also got a good placement into that saddle. Transitions well into the undercut. She's a little bit more balanced in those cheek markings. They have good roundness to them, but she's still just a little bit higher on her right cheek. Good length and evenness to her socks though, and actually really good condition to her coat as well. She's got a good finish to it, it's very lustrous. So she will be our first place black senior doe. Okay, we only have one blue senior doe, so she will be first, Peep, P-E-P. She's just a little bit longer in body type, just into that shoulder and midsection. She's got tons of width of body, but she could use a little bit more depth over that hip to balance with the width that she carries. I'd also like her saddle marking to be a little bit further back. It should be directly behind the shoulders, so it's a little bit further forward. She's transitioned well into a nice clean undercut though. She's got good evenness into her cheeks. They're just a little bit higher in both of them, so it makes her blaze a little bit wider. She also has a good length and evenness to her socks. She is very open and unfinished in her coat today. And she just has a little bit of extra flesh condition up around that shoulder. So she'll be first for the blue senior does. Okay, so we have two chocolate senior does. Our second place is going to be an RCNKNZ. There's different things I like about each of these does. She's very well marked. She just doesn't quite have the balance and body type or the coat condition today. Just a bigger style doe. She's got a little bit of extra flesh condition around her shoulder. She's got lots of width of body. She just needs a little bit more depth over that hip, and she does tend to hollow out at that midsection just a little bit. She has a good placement to her saddle, just needs to be a little bit cleaner and straighter in that saddle marking. She does have a nice undercut to her though. Nice roundness into her cheeks, they're just a little bit uneven. The right cheek is just a little bit higher. She does have very nice length and evenness to her socks though. Good chocolate color where she is finished, but you can see the surface color is just a little bit uneven because she's in between coats right now. And then our first place senior doe is going to be DD5. She's very well balanced type-wise. She has a good length to her body. Very nice and smooth as she transitions through that shoulder, midsection, and hindquarter. She's got nice, well-filled lower hindquarter, good depth of body. Good placement into that saddle. She transitions well into a nice, clean undercut. She can be a little bit more rounded in her cheek markings. She does tend to get just a little bit squared, and they do hook under into her lower muzzle just a little bit. And she can be a little bit more even in her socks as well, but she's got a better finished coat today in addition to that body type, so she will be our first place chocolate senior doe. Okay, so we just have one black junior doe. Her tattoo is M52 or MS2. Okay, so she'll be first. She's just a little bit longer in body type where you put her feet where they're supposed to be. She's just a little longer through that shoulder as she transitions into that midsection. So you can shorten her and make her a little bit more compact, but she does have very nice depth of body over that hip. Good placement to the saddle. It's nice and clean and even. Nice and even in that undercut as well. She does tend to be just a little bit squared in those cheek markings, so we want them to be as round as possible, but hers tend to just get a little bit of an angle to them, a little bit more squared. She does have beautiful socks though, very nice length and evenness to them. She's a little bit unfinished in her coat still, but where she is finished, She's got very nice condition, very lustrous. So now we're gonna look back through. We're gonna do best of variety for each of the varieties, and then we'll pick a best opposite of variety as well. Yeah. Did I have blue buck maybe? That's the black doe. There was a blue buck up here earlier, and a black buck too. Because I didn't pick best of breed yet.
Okay. Nice to have. I might snap back from there. Okay. Senior buck, a blue senior buck. What is that? Tempe, okay. And what are you? Okay. And the black. They both come in. Do you want me to do best of breed? What is
Thank you. I didn't know that they gave you awards. I gotta make sure.
So we have all of our Dutch class winners up here. So we're going to pick best of variety and best opposite sex of variety for each of them that are here. So for the blacks, our best of variety is going to be the senior doe. And then best opposite of variety is going to be the senior buck. So best of variety is the black senior doe, opposite black senior buck.
Senior doe is the best of variety, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And then for our blues, our best of variety is going to be the senior buck. And then best opposite of variety is going to be the senior doe. And then in the chocolates, the best of variety is going to be the senior buck. And then best opposite of variety is going to be the senior doe. So those are going to be our variety winners. Now we'll pick best of breed from the variety winners. And since I just looked at all of them and gave myself a refresher, I already have my winner picked out. That's usually how it goes. You usually have that one rabbit that stands out from everybody else. Today our Dutch best of breed is going to be the black senior doe. And best opposite of breed is going to be the chocolate senior buck.
$5 in one doe? Okay. So yeah, do the doe first. Since they're one doe. Thank you, sorry.
Did you say you wanted the fur?
Yeah, just put that. Just so I can know I can confirm my point of like fit and touch. Yep. Thank you for taking it up.
Could be black butter, protein,
Yeah, they are technically. Yeah.
I know, I'm like,
Okay. All right. Well, I know which group they say like the actual variety on there? Yeah, I didn't see the actual variety. It's okay. No, I got it. There is one that I was very wet under his chin, so I don't know if he's like plain and it's old. I it's like yeah. Okay. I saw him. Okay. His teeth look fine, and I don't think he has like bone or anything. So sometimes I get a lot of other things. Okay. I saw him. Okay, so that's the varieties. That's all I really need to know, the variety. And this, she's a perfect.
Okay, I think we're ready to roll with the Netherland dwarfs. They are very complicated normally when they judge them. They have their individual varieties, and then they have groups, and then they do best of breed. So there's only a couple up here, but we're still going to award everybody the same way they would be at an ARBA show. So we're going to do the shaded buck first. So he's a tortoise, if you have a card for a tortoise.
Yep.
Okay, so his tattoo, is it an I5L? Okay, so he's going to be first for his class. He's first for the senior bucks. And then he's also going to be best of variety because he is the only tortoise. And then he's going to be best of group because he's the only shaded. So he gets lots of awards. So I'm still going to give him some comments then too. He's got really nice width in that chest. He could be a little bit stronger in the ankles. Sometimes they need a little bit more bone just to help them sit up the way that we expect them to. He needs a little bit more depth at that shoulder as well. He is just a little bit longer through that shoulder and into his midsection. He's got really nice width in between his eyes. He's got a nice round cheek to him. He's got good placement to his ears, and I love that the ears are nice and open and they have a good substance to them. They're just a little bit longer. He's got very nice color and good shading to him. He's just a little bit open and unfinished in his coat today. And then these two are in the same class. They're both black otters. So this one is going to be second. G8 or 6'8".
G2.
Okay, it's kind of in the hairline.
Okay.
So he's going to be number 2 for the Black Otter Senior Bucks. He's got good length to his body. He's got good depth at the shoulder, nice depth over his hip. He just lacks some width to balance. He could use more width in his chest, more width in his shoulders. And for these guys, we want their head to kind of be rounded in all directions. So he just doesn't have that roundness and fullness into his cheek. The ear placement is good. He's got a good openness to his ear. He just needs more substance to his ear. He does have a really nice condition to his coat and pretty good color. And then this guy is going to be first for the Otter Senior Bucks. His tattoo is A. This guy's got really nice body type. He's short, he's compact, he's got good width in that chest, really nice width into that shoulder. We kind of want these guys to be the same width throughout, shoulder, midsection, hindquarter. And he does have that. He's got good depth over his shoulder as well, good depth over his hindquarter. Good roundness into that head, nice roundness and fullness into his cheek as well, good placement to his ear. Pretty good substance to his ear. I just wish the ear was a little bit more open, but it does have a good roundness into the tip of the ear. He could be a little bit richer in his color and into his markings for that otter, but he will be the first place Otter Senior Buck. He'll also be best of variety for the otters, and he'll be best of group for tan pattern. And then we have one Chestnut Agouti, 21W22. Okay. Little ears, tiny tattoos. So he's going to be first. He's got a very nice length to his body. He's short, he's compact. He's got good depth at his shoulder. I do wish that he had a little bit more depth and roundness over his hip. He does tend to just slope off a little bit at that hindquarter. But he's got good width around. He's got very nice width between his eyes. He's got good roundness and fullness into that cheek. Very nice length to his ear. The ear actually has pretty good openness to it too. Good shape to it, good substance to his ear. He is a little bit in between coats right now, and he could have a brighter intermediate band. But he's going to be first for Chestnut Agouti Senior Bucks, and then he's going to be best of variety, and then he'll be best of group for the Agoutis as well. And then we have one broken Senior Buck, G5. and we'll give him a first. This is one that's just a little bit lighter and thinner in bone. I'd like to see him carry just a little bit more bone to him, a little bit more strength at that ankle, but he's got great width into that chest, really nice width into his shoulder, good width into that midsection, nice well-filled lower hindquarter as well. He's got good depth at his shoulder, just lacks a little bit of depth and roundness over that hindquarter, but he does have a very nice roundness from the front view of his head. He's got good roundness from the side view of his head. The ear carriage could be just a little bit further forward on his head, and it could be a little bit more open. They're also a little bit pointed, and we'd like to see him to be a little bit rounder into the tip. It's also a little bit more open and unfinished in his coat stand. Again, summertime is a tough time of year. But he will be first place for Broken Senior Bucks, and then he's also going to be Best of Variety Broken, and he will be Best of Group for any other variety. And then we have just one lonesome doe for our little indoors. And I did look at her already. Okay, definitely see a 6 on the end, okay? So typically in an ARVA show, this breed can't have a dewlap, which is this little fold of skin under their chin, which a lot of does do get. That's where they pull fur and make a nest for the babies. So typically in an ARVA show, she wouldn't get to compete. She would be disqualified, but she's going to be first place today for our Opal Senior Does. That's her variety. She has a good length to her body. She's got great width into that chest. She's a really wide doe throughout that shoulder midsection. Nice well-filled lower hindquarter. Good depth at her shoulder. Nice depth and roundness over that hindquarter as well. She's got good roundness into the front of her head and the curvature to her skull. Nice roundness and fullness into that cheek. Ear carriage and placement, we want these to be a little bit further forward on her head, and she gets a little bit scissored in the carriage of the ear, which is when they start to kind of crisscross into the tip. We would like them to be held together. She's just a little bit thinner in substance of ear and pointed in the tip of the ear. We'd like the ear to be a little bit more rounded. Just have a good opal color to her though, pretty good condition to her coat. So she is going to be first place for the Opal Senior Does. And then she'll be best opposite, well she'll be best variety for opals too, she's the only opal. And she'll be best opposite of group for the agoutis because the chestnut is best. So this breed comes in so many varieties, and that's why they start to do the groups so that there's less rabbits up here when we go to pick best of breed. I know we didn't have that many to start with, so we got to fit them all up here, but normally there can be hundreds of these at a show. They're a very popular breed. And I really like two of my bucks up here. I really like this agouti buck, and I really like the otter buck too. Today, our best of breed is going to be the otter buck, which is the guy right here. And then best opposite of breed would go to the opal doe over here. So we pick best opposite of the gender. Congratulations, everybody. Okay, so we have some satins up here. Actually, some colors that you don't actually see very often. Usually the whites and the blacks are usually the most common. So it's really nice to see some dilutes up here, lots of blues. So we have 2 senior bucks. Number 2 is going to be an HR 103. Okay, he's a very nicely typed rabbit. He's got great commercial type, very nice length to his body, very nice width into that shoulder midsection, good depth over that hip. Really just being faulted more on the coat today, so satins judge very heavily on their coats, looking at the density, the texture. This guy has good density. He's just very soft in his texture. You can see where he's very open and unfinished in his coat. So we want these guys to look very shiny. They should have sheen to their coat. And when they're not finished in coat, they do usually lack that sheen that we're looking for. So just a tougher breed, when they're out of coat, it really impacts them a lot. But he's got really nice blue color in the areas where he is finished. So our first place senior buck then is going to be 1. Like he knew was going to happen. Also a very nicely typed rabbit. Good commercial type. He's got great width into that shoulder, very nice width into that midsection, nice well-filled lower hindquarter. He's very smooth as he transitions throughout, and he definitely has a more correct satin coat. You can kind of look at him. He's very shiny. He's got a good sweet texture to his coat, lots of sheen. He does have a couple areas where he's just got some protruding hair that could probably be honestly groomed out. I don't think he's molting. He just has a couple little tufts here and there, but very nice rabbit. He's going to be first place for the blue senior bucks. And then we have 3 senior does. Number 3 is going to be a 1K H4.
TK.
Okay. She's a nicely typed rabbit, beautiful depth of body. She's got a very nice high point directly over the center of her hips there. Good width throughout. She's well balanced, but again, just one of those rabbits that's very open and unfinished in her coat today, especially up across the back here. So where she's more open and is getting a new coat coming in, she's got great blue color, but in some of these areas where she's not finished, she's kind of sunburnt look. I don't know if she's outside, but that tends to happen in the summertime a lot. She does have a good density to her coat, pretty good texture, just kind of lacks the overall evenness and balance and finish. All right, number 2 is going to be an HR 109. She's got a good length of body. I love the width of body on this doe. She's got great width into that shoulder midsection, but she is a little bit flat across the top of her hip. We want this to be round and deep over that hindquarter. She can use a little bit more density to her coat, and she's one that just has a little bit of a coarser texture to her coat. We kind of want to feel like we're almost touching glass. You shouldn't really feel any of the coat when you're actually grooming them and stroking them. She's also a little bit more unfinished. Again, just the top of the back here has a little bit more finish to it and a little bit better color, but in the areas where she's unfinished, she kind of gets that brownish tinge to her. So first place for our senior does is an MHS Z15 or 215. This one probably has the best balance of body type in the class. She's got very nice width throughout. She's got nice depth over that hip. Very well filled lower hindquarter. Very appropriate top line that she carries. She takes a little bit more in between coats and unfinished, but she does have a lot of sheen to her coat, which is important in those satins. Good density and texture to her coat. Pretty good color on her. So between the 2 blues, we would still pick a best of variety and a best opposite of variety. So best of variety for the blues is going to be the senior buck. Best opposite of variety will be the blue senior doe. we have a different variety up here now. These are red satins. There's a junior buck and a junior doe. So we'll do the junior buck first. He's going to be first place for his class. He's got a good length to his body, good width into that shoulder midsection. He's got good depth over his hip as well. Could be a little bit fuller at that lower hind quarter. So he's a little tougher on these satins. They kind of have a fuzzy baby coat when they're juniors, so they don't quite have the density to their coat or the texture. You can see they start to get the sheen more in the head and the extremities first, and then once they molt out into a more senior coat, they usually have better sheen to them. So this guy's kind of in that transition stage still where he has a softer, fuzzier texture to his coat. So but he's very nicely typed. He's got very nice color. It's really hard to get a nice clean red color on the satin sometimes. And then our junior doe, Reba. So she's going to be first as well. She's got a good length to her body. Pretty good width. She just lacks some of the depth over her hips. She's a little bit rougher in flesh condition as well. But similar coat comments to the buck. She just has that fuzzier texture to her coat right now. She needs a little bit more density to her, but she does have good sheen on her head. And I think when she starts to transition to a more adult coat, she'll have good sheen throughout. And she does have nice clean color as well. But today, the junior buck is going to be best of variety. He's got a little bit better balance of body type. And then the junior doe will be best opposite of variety. And then between the two varieties that we have up here for the satins, we'll pick best of breed and best opposite of breed. And as we were talking about, the junior coats kind of don't have the density and texture usually that we're looking for. They just need a little bit more time to mature into the coat. So today, best of breed and best opposite of breed is going to be to the two blues. So the blue senior buck is best of breed, the blue senior doe is best opposite of breed.
Yes. No, you're good. There you go, buddy. Good job.
Alright, so we have 6 Hall Knox Senior Bucks. Screen's always a little ornery. So kudos to you guys. It's definitely a breed you have to work with a lot to get them to pose the way that they should. So this guy is going to be number 6. His tattoo is HG1125. So in the Hall Knox, majority of their points are carried in their head, ear, and crown. So just this part right here. But they have some points on body type too. So this guy's just a little bit longer in that front limb. We want them to have good bone. They should be really wide in their chest. This guy lacks a little bit of width in his chest. He's a little bit more narrow at that shoulder as well. He also lacks some depth over that shoulder. He's a little bit longer from his shoulder into his midsection. And then for the part that carries the most points, the head, ear, and crown, for the senior bucks especially, we want really nice width in between the eyes, and we want that to carry all the way down. Sometimes they start to get an hourglass shape to the front, where they just get a little bit narrow at that lower eye as they transition into their muzzle. And then this crown, which is really the cartilage where the base of the ear comes out, determines a lot of how the ear carriage and placement is. So this guy, we wanted the ear to be really open at the base of the ear, so that usually they don't have the front to back width into the crown. So if he had a wider crown, it would help open that ear a little bit more. He could also use a little bit more substance to his ear. And then when we look at them from the front, they should have side-to-side width into the crown too. Sometimes they get a little bit narrow, and it just doesn't help for the ear to kind of hang, sort of like an upside-down horseshoe. So that's kind of where this guy is lacking a little bit today. In that body type, we want them to be short and compact, and that head, ear, and crown determines a lot for the points on these. This guy's going to have some similar comments. I like the ears a little bit more on him though. BKM. He is going to be 5th. And I do really like the bone on this one as well. He's got short, chunky little legs. It's kind of what we're looking for. But he is a little bit more narrow into that chest. He's more narrow into his shoulder. So we want these guys to have good width. They should be short and compact still. He does have a better head. I like the width between the eye, but he does tend to still get a little bit narrow at that lower eye into his muzzle. He does have a better width into his crown. The ear's a little bit more open, but he can use more substance to his ears. So we want the ear to be nice and thick, which is where this guy lacks a little bit today. It's also a little bit more open and unfinished in his coat. So those two can go back then. Okay, and then we have number 4 is going to be BAT. I like the body type a lot on this guy. He's short, compact, he's got good width into that chest, good width throughout, good depth. He does lack a little bit of bone. However, he is going to be defaulted more in that head, ear, and crown. He's more narrow in his head. could be a little bit more rounded into the tip of his ear, and he lacks substance to his ear, and then he also lacks side-to-side width to the front of that crown. He kind of has what we call a little bit more of that ear control. He doesn't relax and let those ears kind of fall where they should. Sometimes that happens in younger bucks too, if he's a younger senior buck. This is a breed that you can show for years and years, and sometimes they just get better with age. Number 3 is going to be Sun. Sun lacks a little bit of width in his chest as well. He's got lots of depth of body, good depth of the shoulder, good depth and roundness of that hindquarter. He just lacks that width to balance. However, I do really like the crown on this guy. He's got a really nice depth to the crown. He's got good side-to-side width to the crown. And the ear is nice and open. He's got a good shape and substance to his ear. But there are 2 other bucks here that I like their head a little bit more. The senior bucks on Hollow Knob should have a very masculine head. Then it's kind of the first thing you see when they're sitting in their coops here. Alright, number 2 is Tan. Tan. He's similar to the 3rd place buck we just had. I'd like this guy to show a little bit more bone. He can use a little bit more strength at the ankle. And the 1st place animal, they both have good heads on them. But I do like the ear placement and carriage a little bit more on the 1st place animal. This guy's got a lot of depth of crown. He just doesn't quite have the width of crown that the 1st place animal does. His ear's not quite as open. But he does have good substance, good roundness into the tip of the ear. He's got a very nice coat condition to him as well. So he would be 2nd, and then my 1st place is, these 2 bucks were of course the first ornery in the class, usually how it goes. So FL2, he's going to be 1st. This guy's got a little bit better body type balance to him too. I really like that he's short, he's compact, he's got nice depth at the shoulder, really nice depth and roundness over that hindquarter. He's got good width, very nice bone on him. He's got a good head. And I mentioned that his ear is nice and open at the base. It hangs directly behind the eye where it should be. That's all part of the crown placement. Sometimes their ears are kind of slipped in the carriage for a slipped crown. They hang a little bit too far back. So this guy was the most balanced overall for me in the class. So he's going to be 1st for our senior bucks. so we have 6 solid senior does for the Hollenlocks as well. And I looked all of those over. As you can see, the Hollenlocks come in a lot of different varieties too, like the Netherlands Dwarfs did, but their breed club says, let's just put all the solids together and all the brokens in their own, which are the spotted ones. So all of theirs just kind of show together. They don't do the individual varieties. So for our solid senior does, number 6 is going to be an SNS. This is just a little bit of a bigger style doe. She's got really nice bone, good width into that chest. She's got good width throughout. She just lacks a little bit of depth and roundness over that hip. She's a little bit longer through that shoulder and into her midsection. Also going to falter more so in the headgear and crown. So this is one of the ones where I was talking about they get a little bit slipped in their crown, and then their ear carriage and placement isn't exactly where we would want it to be. So it should fall directly behind the eye, and it should fall straight down, so more like this, but her crown is slipped, so her ears are being held more further back. So it's like you see her carrying more front to back width to the crown. That would help open the base of the ear. She kind of gets a little bit of a fold in that ear, so we want the ear to be more open. She can also use more substance to her ear. She does have good depth of crown though. She's got a very sweet personality. Number 5 is going to be a NGA. This is also just a little bit longer through that midsection. We like these guys to be short and compact. Sometimes we do get a little bit of length through the midsection. They kind of slope off over the hips. You could just use a little bit more depth and roundness over that hindquarter. This is another one that is a little bit more slipped in the carriage of her ear and the placement with her crown. So we want the ear again to be directly behind the eye here, but when the crown is slipped, they tend to hold their ears further back. However, she does have a nice openness to her ears, so she's got good front to back width to the crown, but she does lack a little bit of ear substance. She doesn't quite have that roundness and fullness into her cheek or the depth of her crown. She's also a little bit more open and unfinished in her coat. So she can go back as well. She's number 5. Number 4 is going to be MITS1. Okay. This one has good body type. She's short and compact. She can maybe use just a smidge more depth over her hip here. We want the shoulder and the hindquarter to be the same depth, equal, kind of slopes just a little bit as she gets to that hindquarter. But she does have beautiful width between the eye, nice roundness to her head. However, she is, again, just a little bit more slipped in that crown and the carriage of her ear. We want this to be directly behind the eye, but her crown carries her ear a little bit further back than it should. But the ear has a good shape. It's nice and round. It's nice and open. But she does lack a little bit of substance to her ear. Pretty good condition to her coat. Number 3 is going to be an FB13. I like this doe to show just a little bit more bone in that front limb. She can be a little bit deeper at that shoulder, but she has really nice depth and roundness over that hindquarter. She also has good width between the eye for her head. She's got a good depth to her crown, getting better in the carriage of the ear, but she could still use a little bit more front to back width to the crown. It would help open the ear. She just has a little bit of a fold to her ear, but good shape to it. Lacks a little bit of substance to her ear, and she's a little unfinished in her coat today. Number 2 is going to be a JM2. She's a very tightly doe. She's got a very nice bone. She's got a nice strong ankle. She's very deep in her shoulder. She's very deep and round over her hindquarter as well. She could use a little bit more width in that chest and a little bit more width in her shoulders because she has so much depth of body. It'd help her balance a little bit more. But she's got a very nice placement to the ear, directly behind the eye. The ear is nice and open. She's got a good front to back width into that crown. Pretty good substance to her ear. She's just a little bit unfinished in coat, but she's a very pretty doe. So all of these ones can go back except for this one here. It's going to be our class winner. So first place is going to be an MIM. probably has the best balance of body type for me. She's short and compact. She's got good width into that shoulder, good width and fullness into her hindquarter. She's got nice equal depth at the shoulder and her hindquarter. Good bone on her. She could be a little bit bolder in that head, but sometimes the senior does are a little bit more refined in comparison to the senior bucks. She has a good depth to her crown, nice shape to her ears, good substance to her ear, and actually pretty good finish to her coat as well. So she's going to be our first place senior doe.
Sent me a video of him literally driving down the road.
Okay, so we have 5 Holland Log Solid Junior Bucks up here. And number 5 is going to be an HLH or HL11? Okay. This guy has good bone, and just wish he had a little bit more strength at that ankle. He's short and compact, he's got good body type, good width throughout, nice depth of the shoulder, good depth and roundness of that hindquarter. But gonna falter more in the head, ear, and crown today. He just gets a little bit narrow at that lower eye. He doesn't quite have the roundness and fullness in his cheek. He does have a pretty good placement to the ear, but the ear has a little bit of a fold to it. I do think that the crown needs a little bit more development. Sometimes that takes the longest to develop on these Holland Locks. So he just needs a little bit more front to back width. He can use a little bit more side to side width to the crown and more depth to the crown as well, just to help with the overall carriage and placement of the ear. But this is a very nice class of junior bucks. Number 4 is another one that I think just might need a little bit more time to develop. He's probably the youngest in the class here. B-I-T-D?
B-I-T-O.
T-O, okay. He's a cute little buck. He's just not quite as developed in the head right now, but I think he's very promising. He's got this nice chunky little leg to him, good bone. He's got good depth at his shoulder, nice depth around into the hindquarter. He's just a little bit more narrow in that chest right now, and he's more narrow in that shoulder. He also tends to be a little bit more narrow in his head. He'd like a little bit more roundness and curvature into his head. He does have a good carriage and placement to the ear. The ear's a little bit long right now to balance, and he can use a little bit more substance to his ear. But I do think he's a promising junior buck. Number 3 is going to be an HL10. This guy could use a little bit more bone as well. And he's one that has really nice width into that shoulder. Could be a little bit deeper at his shoulder, but he's got good depth and roundness of that hindquarter. He needs a little bit more evenness in the width of his head. He needs more fullness and roundness into his cheek. But he does have a nice shape to his ear. They're nice and round. Just needs a little bit more substance to his ear, and he can use a little bit more depth into his crown. Number 2 is going to be an FL6. Nicely typed rabbit. He's got very nice bone. He can use a little bit more width in his chest and a little bit more width at that shoulder, but he's got beautiful depth at the shoulder, beautiful depth and roundness over that hindquarter, and he's got a really nice evenness into the width of his head, nice roundness and fullness into his cheek, good placement to that ear, pretty good shape and substance and openness to the ear as well. He just needs a little bit more depth to his crown. So it's a little unfinished in his coat, but very nice buck. And then our first place class winner is going to be an HL9. Nicely balanced little buck. He's got good bone to him, good width into that chest. I'd say he's a little bit more width into that shoulder, but he's got a very nice depth in his shoulder, good depth and roundness of that hindquarter. Beautiful width into that head. He carries that same width all the way down through. Nice roundness into his cheek. Pretty good carriage that ear, just needs a little bit more substance to his ear, and he can still use a little bit more depth to his crown, but the ear is nice and open. He's got good width to his crown, pretty good condition to his coat. So he's first place. I'm going to keep him up here. The rest of the junior bucks can go back. 4, solid Hallmark Junior Does. Number 4 is going to be an HL5. Just good light to her body, good width into that chest. She's got really nice depth at her shoulder, very nice depth and roundness over that hind quarter as well. Being faulted more just in the head, ear, and crown today. She doesn't quite have the roundness and fullness into her cheeks. She's slipped in the crown, so the carriage of the ear is a little bit further back than we would like to see. The ear is also very long to balance right now and is more pointed in the shape of the ear, but she does have pretty good substance to her ear. I think with development to that crown, it will definitely help with the carriage and placement of her ear. So these juniors always take a little bit longer to develop sometimes. Number 3, so he's very excited. PA13. This one needs a little bit more bone. She needs a little bit more strength at her ankles. She tends to just be a little bit flat on her feet. But she does have good width into that chest, good width into her shoulder, nice depth down her shoulder as well, and good depth and roundness at that hind quarter. She's got a very well-filled lower hind quarter. But she does tend to be a little bit more narrow in her head compared to the other does in the class. And she doesn't quite have the roundness and fullness in her cheek. Very nice length to her ear, good shape to her ear. She just lacks a little bit of substance to her ear, and she can still use more width and depth into that crown. She has a beautiful coat of fur. Number 2 is going to be a TWIZ. Nice and tight little doe. She's short and compact. She's well balanced with and depth-wise. She's got good bone. I do think that this is another one kind of similar to the 4th place one. When she develops more into that crown, it'll help her. But she doesn't already have a good width into her head. Pretty good roundness into that cheek. I like the placement and the carriage of the ear better on this doe. She's got a good shape and substance. Just needs to develop that crown a little bit more. But she's a very cute little doe. And then our first place one, a lot of coat condition, but these guys don't give a whole lot of points for their coat. Ruth is going to be first. She's got these really cute, short, chunky little legs. That's exactly what we want on a hollow mop, for them to have good bone. She's got good depth at her shoulder, good depth and roundness over that hip as well. She could still use a little bit more width into that chest and more width into her shoulder, but she's got very nice width into her head and between her eyes, good roundness into that cheek. She's a little long in the ear right now, but it's got a very nice placement to it, very nice shape and substance to her ear, very nice openness to it as well. Okay, so for our solids for the Hall mops, nice and have each class up here. And as I mentioned, it's always a little tougher in this breed in the juniors because they don't always have the development in their head, ear, and crown, and there's so many points carried on that for this breed. So today the best solid is going to be the solid senior buck. The best opposite of solid is going to be the solid senior doe. So I'll take these two up here so we can do best to breed them. broken Hallmark Senior Bucks. So broken is just their pattern, the white with another color. So number 5 in the class is going to be an FL30. This guy's just a little bit longer. He's longer in that front limb. He's longer through that shoulder into his midsection. We want these guys to be short and compact. So he just is lacking those qualities today. And then in that ever so important head, ear, and crown, he just tends to be very narrow in his head. Doesn't quite have the roundness and fullness into his cheeks. Does have a little bit of a fold in that ear, so he can use a little bit more front to back width into that crown. But otherwise, he's got a pretty good shape to his ear, nice substance to his ear, and he's got tons of energy. Number 4 is going to be an FL12 or 13. Okay, 13. Stay short and compact. He just lacks a little bit of depth at that shoulder. We want the shoulder to be as deep as it is over the hind quarter. Just a little bit flatter on his feet. He can use a little bit more bone and more strength at the ankle. But he does have better width into his head, a little bit better curvature to his skull, and fullness into that cheek. Pretty good place into that ear. He's got a good shape and substance to his ear. Pretty good width and depth into that crown as well. These are nice class of Senior Bucks. Number 3 is going to be an RKN. This guy's nicely tight. He's got a nice short compact body to him. He's got good depth over that shoulder. Could be a little bit deeper over that hind quarter. He just tends to slope off a little bit, but he's got good bone. Pretty good strength at that ankle. Doesn't quite have the roundness and fullness in his head as the other 2 bucks that I have here, but I really appreciate the openness of his ear. He's got a very nice shape and substance to his ear as well. Number 2 is going to be an FL34. Very nicely balanced buck. I do wish he had just a little bit more bone. He could be a little stronger at the ankle, but he's short and compact. I like the body type a lot. He's got a very nice width in his chest into his shoulder. He's got good depth in his shoulder. Very nice depth and roundness at the hind quarter. Very nicely well-filled lower hind quarter. Very nice head on him as well. Pretty good placement and carriage to that ear. He just lacks some substance to his ear. I really appreciate the pattern and color on him as well. These 2 broken Senior Bucks in the top 2 placements here are very, very nice. Okay, so all the other broken Senior Bucks can go back. This one's going to be first place, so I'll keep him. APN. He is first. Nice, short, compact, very well balanced. He's short in body type. He's got good depth at his shoulder, good depth and roundness over that hind quarter. Very nice evenness into the width of his head. Good placement to that ear. The ear is nice and open. Has good roundness, good substance to it. Good bone on him as well. So he will be our first place broken Senior Buck. unbroken hollow mop senior doe, FL27. So we will give her a first for her class. She's got a very nice width into that chest, good width into her shoulder, nice width throughout in her body. She's maybe a smidge longer as she transitions from that shoulder into her midsection, but good depth of body as well. For a senior doe, she has a very nice width into her head, very nice roundness and fullness into her cheek. She's a little bit slipped in that crown, and the carriage and placement of that ear is a little bit further back than we'd like to see. But she's got a good openness to her ear, pretty good shape, and has substance to her ear. No, she didn't say. So she's first place, broken senior doe.
The average person was 13. I believe I know believe in the 5-second rule. And Bora, who was not shedding, you were pulling the hair.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking. I saw my
Nobody's up there, but
Okay, I was judging her. Yeah. Okay. So my
that's why I don't have it.
Okay, yes, you should have 5. And that was an improved change. We just missed the guitar. So next time, you got 15 your nose.
Three now.
And then just as a heads up, my solid goes up, so I'll need her back. Okay.
Uh-oh. That's
Okay, so we have 5 broken junior bucks for our hollow mop breeding. We're going to start with number 5 here. And his section is P68G. Okay. This guy's just a little bit of a bigger style hollow mop. He's a little bit longer. He's got good bone, but he's long in that front limb. He's also a little bit flatter on his feet. He needs a little bit more strength at the ankle. So it's a longer as he transitions from his shoulder into his midsection. He's got good width of body, but he lacks a little bit of depth at that shoulder. It's also longer in that ear. He's got a fold in the ear. He can use more front to back width to the crown, which would help open the base of the ear. And then he wouldn't have that fold as well. He's got pretty good shape to his ear, though, good substance. He needs a little bit more width into his head. However, I do want to comment, he's got a beautiful coat. He's got very nice depth of blue color, and he's probably got one of the best otter factors I've ever seen in his pattern. Number 4 is this little baby here, HD 9152. This is probably the youngest one in the class. Just a little bit weaker in that bone. He can use more bone. Likes to carry more width into his chest, a little bit more width into that shoulder as well. He's got pretty good depth of body, just lacks that width to balance. As for the head, he definitely has a junior buck head still. It's very narrow. Doesn't quite have that roundness and fullness into his cheek. He does have a good openness to his ear though, good shape and good substance to his ear. Nice pattern on him. Number 3 is going to be an HL8. Nice and tight buck. He's short, compact. He's got good width into that chest, good width into his shoulder. Could use a little bit more depth of body to balance with the width that he carries. Does have pretty good evenness into the width of his head. He's just a little slipped in that crown though, and the carriage of that ear. Pretty good shape to his ear. He just lacks substance, and he lacks a little bit of depth to his crown as well. Number 2, very promising little junior buck here, HG41. Nice short compact buck. I really like the depth that he carries at his shoulder, good depth around to the hindquarter. He could use a little bit more width in the shoulder. He's a little bit weaker right now. But for a junior buck, his head is very nice already. He's got really nice width between the eye. He carries that width evenly down through that lower muzzle. He's got good roundness to his cheek, really good placement and carriage to those ears. Nice shape and substance to them as well. Just needs to develop a little bit more in the body type, but he already has a very nice head, ear, and crown to him. And then first place for our junior bucks is going to be OTPA. Breed takes a lot of patience sometimes. They're a little feisty. Okay. That's a very nice length to his body. He's got good width into that chest, good width into his shoulders, good depth at his shoulders, nice depth and roundness to that hindquarter. He's got a very nice width between his eyes, carries that width evenly down into that lower muzzle, good roundness into that cheek, good placement to his ears, pretty good width and depth into that crown. He could use a little bit more substance to his ear as he develops, but very nice pattern and good color on him. So he's going to be first place for the Broken Junior Bucks. The rest of the Junior Bucks can go back. 3 broken junior does for the Hall Locks. Number 3 is going to be a 5NIC or SNIC. She's just a little bit longer in that front limb, a little bit flatter on her feet. She just needs a little bit more bone and strength at that ankle. A little bit flatter at that shoulder as well. I'd like to see a little bit more depth, but she does have pretty good depth and roundness over that hindquarter. Needs a little bit more evenness in the wick of her head. She just tends to narrow out at that lower eye into her muzzle. She's a little bit long in the ear right now, but good placement and good carriage that ear, and they have a good shape to them, good substance. Needs a little bit more depth to her crown, a little bit more side-to-side wick when looking at the crown from the front. Very cute little junior doe in second here, HL7. Very typey. She's got a short, compact body type to her. Very nice wick into that chest, good wick into that shoulder. Very nice depth of balance. Just felt here more in the head, ear, and crown today. She doesn't quite have the curvature to the skull as the first place animal. She's a little bit slipped in that crown, which causes the ear to be held just a little bit further back. She'll be more directly behind the eye here. She gives a little bit more substance to her ear as well, but the ear is nice and open, has a good shape to it. Very nice color pattern to her as well. Good coat on hers as well. And then our first place one here, another cute little junior doe, is going to be Twix. Nice typey little doe here too. She's short and compact. Good bone on her, very nice width into that chest, good width into her shoulder. Good depth on her shoulder, good depth and roundness to that hindquarter. And as I mentioned, I really appreciate that this doe has a nice curvature to her skull. She's got good evenness into the width of her head, a nice round cheek. Pretty good placement into that ear, they're nice and open. She needs a little bit more substance to her ear, but as a junior, it sometimes be expected. She has a very nice pattern on her as well, good color and shading, good condition to her coat. Okay, we have some very nice broken Hall Locks up here today. There's a lot of promising juniors in both of the junior buck and the junior doe class that I looked at. So it's always nice to see lots of promising juniors. Obviously, you will always want to be bettering the breed and making even better animals. So, but again, it's a breed that's hard with the head, ear, and crown that develops so late. So a lot of times we do see senior animals winning. Today, the one that I do feel has best balance and type and the head, ear, and crown is going to be the broken senior buck. The broken junior doe is going to be best opposite. So broken senior buck is best, broken junior doe is best opposite for the brokens.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I just looked down. You're good.
Okay, so we have our class, or I guess our group winners up here for the Hall Unlocks, our best solids and our best brokens. And I looked at them all, and the solids, I have to give credit, they waited very patiently up here while I did all of the brokens, so they were very well behaved. But today, so as we were talking, the Hall Unlock should be short and compact. They should have that really bold head. The ears should be nice and open. And the rabbit that I feel represents that the best is going to be the broken senior buck today. He's going to be best of breed. And best opposite of breed is going to be the broken junior doe. She's super cute little junior. I think when she develops a little bit more, she's probably going to be beating that senior buck. So the pair of broken today for breed and opposite.
And who is that? Who are the winners? Have I Who are my winners? Caleb and Alexander. Go this is quick then. I need to say you did. Okay. Yep. Now on to our scrap. It's like a mini best. Give people a passion. I know, exactly. She won't take I know, it's really complicated. Yeah. Yeah. Put me on
2 full pages, 1 quarter.
You're on California Senior Bus, right? Yes. Bring them up. Yes, bring them up. We're gonna hand the ribbon, yeah? Okay. You don't have anywhere to send it. Everybody else?
Okay, so we have 7 rabbits up here. It looks like we have a couple different breeds, but we're just going to judge them all just from 1st through 7th. However, the judging comments are going to represent their breeds because that's how we judge rabbits, against their breed standard. So I'm going to assume these 2 little guys are little Californians, and I'm not picking on them for being little. But in the judging criteria of Californians, normally we see these nice big commercial meat rabbits. So these guys are just babies. However, I think they're super promising. If these were part of a meat pen, not that I want to say anyone's in a meat pen, but we judge them similar on their meat qualities. These are 2 cute little babies here. This one's going to be number 7. I know they're not marked in any way, so however you need to hand out your ribbons. But I do think he's got really promising body type. He's got a good length to his body. Very nice width into the shoulder. Compared to the other one that's over here, just a little bit more hollow at that midsection. And when they're these little babies, they just kind of have this soft, fuzzy texture to them. So they don't quite have the density and the texture of the Californian coat that we would be looking for. But type-wise, they're very promising for the Californian breed. And then number 6 is going to be our little Californian baby. Similar comments, but I do like the body type a little bit more on this one. Very nice width into the shoulder. Better depth and better fullness at the midsection compared to the 7th place one that we just talked about. But still very fuzzy in the texture for a Californian coat and thinner in the density of coat. That was number 7 and number 6. Number 5 is going to be Blue American. Wasn't sure if it was a Flemish or American. They actually have a similar pose, a semi-arch body type, and Flemish Giants also have a blue in them. But this one's actually an American, which isn't a very common breed. It's more of a rare breed. So this one's going to be number 5. These ones do judge a lot on the color and the fur, in addition to the body type. So they're a little bit longer in body type, and that's how they're supposed to be. She's got good width into that shoulder, but I would like to see her carry a little bit more depth and roundness over that hind quarter. She can definitely use more fullness at her lower hind quarter. I'm going to focus more on the coat today. Just a little bit duller in that blue color. We want it to be a little bit deeper and richer. She's also very open and unfinished in her coat today. So she goes 5 for the class here. Number 4 is going to be, I think there's a little hole lock here. Yeah, these guys take a little bit. They're a high head mount breed, but it takes a little bit to get them to pose up sometimes. She's got a very nice bone. A little bit flatter on that foot. Could use a little bit more strength at the ankle. Good depth at the shoulder, good depth and roundness with the hindquarter, just a little bit more narrow in the shoulder. Pretty good evenness in the width of her head. Very nice openness and shape to that ear. Pretty good substance in the ear. Very nice condition on the animal as well. Number 3 is going to be, so I think it's actually a mini lock, so they pose a little bit differently than the Holland locks. They don't pose with their head up, they're just more of a short, compact breed. She has a pretty good length to her body. I like the 4-quarter lock. So the front half of the rabbit, great width into that shoulder, really nice start into that top line. But she does peak a little bit more in the center of her back. We want that highest point to be over the center of the hip, so she does get a little bit of a slope over that hindquarter. She's a little bit more narrow at that midsection. For a big lock, she can also use a little bit more width into that head, a little bit more fullness into that cheek. But good placement to the ear is nice and open, has good substance. Could use a little bit more depth to her crown. She's a little bit unfinished in her coat today. Number 2 is going to be our white American. I think this one's probably a junior or maybe an intermediate, a little on the younger side, but very nicely typed rabbit. So semi-arch body type, she's got good length into that shoulder, she has a good top line to her. Could use a little bit more fullness at that lower hindquarter. Just a little coarser in the texture of coat, but really nice density. Beautiful, nice, crisp, clean, white color, very nice condition on the animal. And then our first place is going to be this New Zealand here. This is a big rabbit for a Sprout to have. But very nice commercial type rabbit. Very nice length to her body. Great width into that shoulder. Very nice width and fullness into that midsection. Beautifully well filled lower hindquarter. Good depth of body. Maybe a little bit more finished in coat and just a little looser in flesh condition, but tremendous type for New Zealand. So this one's going to be first for the class then. Great job, everybody. Thanks for bringing all up. Okay, so we're going to be moving on to the Californian breed next. It's actually a breed that I raised, so close to my heart here. So a commercial breed, so looking for, honestly, meat quality in them. Not that they're going to be used for meat, but that's what the breed judges on. And also the fur, if you were to pelt them out, density and texture. The point color is supposed to be as dark as possible, but honestly not worth a lot of points in their actual standard. So our number 3 for senior bucks is going to be a SA 120 or 5A 120. Okay. This guy has a really nice profile. He's got a good length to his body, good width into that shoulder. He does tend to get just a little bit hollow at the loin here, which is where we're going to get the most meat out of them. So that's an important quality for them. Sometimes you see where they get a really nice forequarter on them, but the hindquarter is worth the most amount of points on these guys. This guy's also breaking in his coat around the skirting here. He's just not quite finished in coat. He does have a really nice density and texture to him though. Could be a little bit darker in his point color. Really nice point color, SA 44, but again, not necessarily the deciding factor on these guys because my first place animal has just tremendous body type and conditioning in his muscle, and this guy just lacks that a little bit. He's got a great shoulder, great width into that shoulder, then he tapers down and gets a little bit more narrow at that midsection. He doesn't really have the fullness at the lower hindquarter. He does have good finish to his coat, pretty good density and texture to it, and again, nice point color on him. Just doesn't quite have the overall balance of type as the first place animal, and the first place animal is just hard as a rock in muscling and firmness and flesh condition. So first will be an SA 122. This guy's got great profile in his body type, very nice length to his body, beautiful width into that shoulder, very smooth as you transition into that midsection and lower hindquarter. And as I mentioned, he's got a lot of muscling and firmness in his flesh condition. He could be a little bit more finished in some areas of his coat, but he still has a very nice density and texture to him. So he can stay here then. Okay, so we have 4 California senior does here, a very nice class of senior does. SA 118 is going to be 4. She's just a little bit longer through that shoulder, a little bit lower through that shoulder. Essentially just flatter in overall body type. She just tends to not have this nice deep round hind quarter that we're looking for here. Just a little bit looser in flesh condition. She does have a very nice density and texture to her coat. She's just a slipping coat, a little bit unfinished today. Number 3 is going to be SA 89. Beautiful top line on this rabbit. She has a good length of body, very appropriate high point directly over the center of her hip there. She's got great width into that loin. Just going to falter more on the coat today. She's just thinner in density. She does have good texture. She's just very open and unfinished. And she too is just a little bit looser in flesh condition around that shoulder. Sometimes tough decisions. Different things I like about each of these does. SA 117 is going to be second. She does definitely have a beautiful top line and profile to her. She's got great depth over that hip. She's got good width into her shoulder, but then where I'm faulting the nose, she does tend to narrow out into the loin and midsection, which is where we're going to get the most meat from, the best meat producing quality of these guys. So she's got a really good forequarter. She just doesn't have the hind quarter to balance, but she does have a beautiful coat. Use a little bit more density, but the texture is very nice and she's got good finish. So first is going to be an SA 126. So it's maybe not quite as deep over that hip as the one we just saw, but she definitely has a lot of width, a lot of fullness into that loin. She's wide, she's full at the lower hind quarter. She's a little open and unfinished in her coat and can maybe use a little bit more firmness in her flesh condition, but she's a very nice doe. So she can stay up here with our senior buck. so we have 2 6'8" or intermediate bucks here. Number 2 is going to be a CR210. Nice and tight around. He's got a good length to his body, good width into that shoulder midsection. Maybe use a little bit more depth over that hip and a little bit more fullness at that lower hindquarter. Really being beaten down by an animal that has a prime coat of fur today. This guy just doesn't quite have that finish or the density and texture as the first place animal. So first, there's going to be an SA-127. It's got a good length to his body, very nice width into that shoulder midsection. He can still use a little bit more depth just to balance with the amount of width that he carries, but he definitely has a prime coat of fur. They do start to get this prime line up the center of their back when they're in prime condition for coat, and that is what this guy has today. Very nice density, good texture, very nice finish to his coat. So I'm going to move him over here with our other class winners. And then this guy here can go back then.
Texting Jamie, and he was like, I gotta go on the service. Not gonna get any service. He said he was doing service. Oh yeah, sure. Service is at 10. He was laying on it here. He was like, he didn't actually say he was on stand. I just pictured him laying on one of the chairs. I guess since I'm not there, he's not.
Okay, so we have 5, 6, 8 goes. I will say there are some rabbits in this class that can really use those toenail trimming. They're like razor sharp. It does help them pose a little bit better when their nails aren't so long. Helps them rest their feet a little bit flatter on the table. So just a little conditioning and grooming. RJ01 is going to be fit. Just a little bit flatter in body type. She's got good width into that shoulder, good width into her midsection, but she needs a little bit more depth over that hip and more fullness of that lower hindquarter. She's a little bit thinner in density, and of course her in that texture and just open and unfinishing her coat today. AJ02 or D2? Good length for her body, good width into that shoulder, very nice depth over that hip. Pretty well filled lower hindquarter. Just doesn't quite have the coat finish as some of the other does in the class today. She's a little looser in flesh condition. Number 3 is going to be a 210 CR. Good length of body. She's a little bit lower and weaker at that shoulder, but she's got good width into that midsection. Very nice firm loin on her. I would like to move the high point just a smidge further back. She's just a little flat at the top of the hip here, but she's got a very nice density to her coat. Good texture. Just needs a little bit more finish to her coat. .211 CR is going to be our second place. Very nicely piped rabbit. She's got a good length to her body, good width into that shoulder. She just doesn't quite have the width and fullness as the first place animal does, and the first place animal just has a very prime finished coat of fur today as well. So first place is going to be an SA128. Very well typed rabbit. She's got a good length to her body. Beautiful width throughout. She's very wide in that loin as well. Very nicely well filled lower hindquarter. Beautiful coat of fur. Great density, texture, and finish on her.
Four. Bottom. I think it's hilarious when they're getting really fast.
Okay, so we have 4 Californian Junior Bucks. Number 4 is going to be a CR220. This guy's just a little bit longer in body type. Through that midsection, he's a little bit more narrow at that shoulder and into his midsection as well. He needs more width of body to balance with the depth that he carries. Probably the most out of coat condition today as well. Number 3 is going to be a CR222. Better balance and body type on this guy. He's got a pretty good length to his body. Nice width and depth to balance. Just needs a little bit more fullness at that lower hindquarter. That's a pretty good finish to his coat and a very nice texture. Just lacks density to his coat. Number 2 is going to be an SA13. Nice profile on this box. He's got a good length to his body. Great width throughout. Like to move the high point just a little bit further back. He does tend to hollow out a little bit of that loin. Nice well-filled lower hindquarter on him though, just very open and unfinished in his coat. So first will be an SA11. Good length of body. I like the 4-quarter lot. He's got a nice strong shoulder. Starts tall into that top line, but he could just use a little bit more depth and roundness. He does tend to hollow out just a little bit of that midsection. Very nice density and texture to his coat, just needs a little bit more finish. Okay, so 3 junior does. Number 3 is going to be a 230 CR. I'm sure she's the youngest one in the class. She does have pretty well balanced body type, good length to her body, good width and depth of balance, nice well-filled lower hindquarter. Just defaulted more in the coat today. She's very thin in density, soft in texture, and unfinished. Number 2 is going to be an SA12. That shoulder just shows a little bit more length. She's a little looser and flush condition up around that shoulder as well. She's also very open and unfinished in her coat today in comparison to our first place animal. First place will be a JS6 or J56. Very well balanced type-wise. Very nice profile on this doe. She has a good length to her body. Very nice width and depth to balance. She's full to the table in that lower hindquarter. Good density texture to her coat, pretty good finish to her as well.
One. Okay, you got it. Okay.
Okay, so we have a couple pre-juniors here. They usually just don't meet the weight or age requirements for the actual junior class. So we have one buck, J516 or JS16. Okay, so we'll give him a first. He's got a good length to his body, good width into that shoulder. Just get a little bit hollow at that midsection and see a little bit more depth and roundness at that hind quarter. It's very soft in the texture of his coat still, but good density to his coat. Just a little dirty and stained. For our does, number 2, it's going to be an SA146. She has a good length of body, nice width into that shoulder, good width and fullness in that midsection. Could be a little bit fuller at that lower hind quarter. She too is just a little softer in texture and thinner in density. And then first for the previews, J515 or JS15. Sweet, very nice rabbit. She's got a good length to her body, very well balanced. She's got very nice depth over that hip, very nice off the lower hind quarter, good width throughout, very nice density and texture, and actually pretty good finish to her coat for a pre-junior as well. So those don't normally compete for the best of breed, so those ones can go back and then keep everybody on the table over here for our other class winners. Okay, very nice group of Californians up here. I judge all over the country, and I don't know if I've ever judged this many youth Californians or as great a quality that was up here. All these classes are well represented. But I'm going to go with the animal that I feel has the best meat producing quality for the commercial type and also the best finishing coat, and that's going to be the 6'8" or intermediate doe. She's going to be best of breed. And then best opposite of breed is going to be the 6'8" or intermediate buck. So the 2 6'8" will be best of breed and best opposite of breed.
Is there a lot of them? Okay. Can you count how many brokens there are? There's usually a lot of brokens. If they can go by themselves, I can work through this solid. I can get Jerry. I can drink this water. That one? Okay. Jerry, you can help. Yeah, that number. Okay, broken. Okay. We're gonna do Brooklyn's first, Kathy. Yeah, that's what I was just getting ready to say. Yeah, you one last
Okay, so we're on to the dwarf Ho-Hos now, and we have a senior buck, or senior doe and a junior buck, sorry. The senior doe, she's going to be first for her class. They also have the best texture and finish to the coat. Could still use a little bit more density, but for these young junior animals, these are pretty good finish to their coat. So this pen can stay here if you don't mind. Okay, so we have one New Zealand pen, so it'll be first place for the New Zealand pen. It is nice to have white New Zealands. It's really easy to get the uniformity in color. Obviously, they're all white. Size-wise, they're pretty good uniform there as well. There really shouldn't be like one outlier of an animal that's better than the other within the pen, but I do feel like that's the case with this guy here. I really like his top line. He's got a very nice depth of body. So use a little bit more width. Then this guy here has great width of body, but he's not quite as deep and round. So I would say that this pen does lack a little bit of uniformity in the actual meat producing qualities. They're also a little softer and fuzzier in the texture of coat, and a little bit thinner in density of coat. They're not quite as finished either. But they will be the first place pen for the New Zealand. So we have our Californian pen first place up here and the first place New Zealand pen. If they could both hang out here. Okay, we have two nice pens here between the New Zealand and the Californian, but I do feel like the California meat pen has a lot more finish and condition to the coat, a lot more uniformity in the actual meat type on the animals. So the Californian pen is going to be the grand champion pen. So now we're going to be picking a reserve champion meat pen. It will be between the New Zealand pen and now the second place Californian pen is coming back up for comparison to the New Zealand pen. I'll take them over here. Thank you.
The Piper
again, slip two nice pens up here. The Californian pen is going to be the reserve grand champion. They have a little bit more finishing coat, and they're almost identical in size and body type. Okay, so we have 5 Friars, all Californians up here, so essentially the same thing as the meat pan, but just 1 rabbit instead of 3, and we take away the 20 points for the uniformity because it's only 1 rabbit. So we give more points to the body type for the meat, and then more points to condition, and then they still get 10 points for fur. So my 5th place guy is going to be an SA15. Says one of those rabbits that I think has a really strong forequarter, but as we've discussed through the day, the hindquarter is where most of the points are for these commercial breeds. So he's got really nice whip into that shoulder, but then he doesn't carry the whip into his midsection and doesn't have the fullness of the lower hindquarter. Also a little thinner in density and open and unfinished in his coat today. Number 4 is going to be an SA14. It's a little on the smaller side, that's okay. They have a 2-pound range for their weight. But this is another one that I really like the width in the shoulder, but I wish he carried that width and fullness into that midsection. Pretty well filled at that lower hindquarter. Just thinner in density and softer in the texture of his coat. Number 3 is going to be a J514. He's just a little bit longer as he transitions through that shoulder and midsection, but he's got great width, very appropriate top line, great depth over that hip, just a little bit hollow at that midsection and loin still. Very nice density texture and good finish to his coat. Alright, 2 really nice rabbits here. Number 2, and he'll actually be the reserve champion Friar, is going to be GS8. He's got a very nice length to his body, beautiful depth of body, just a little hollow at that midsection still, not quite as full at that lower hindquarter. And I always going to pick up the rabbits right in front of their hips here. And the first place animal I can barely hold on to. He's got so much muscling and firmness to his flesh condition. But this guy does have really nice coat condition to him. So our first place in champion Friar is SA16. Very well balanced type-wise. He's got a good length to his body. Very nice width throughout. He transitions really smooth through that shoulder midsection, hindquarter. He's got a ton of muscling and firmness to his flesh condition. He could use a little bit more finish to his fur condition, but the fur is the least amount of points on these Friars. So he is our grand champion Friar.
This is your lightweight project. So excited. And he has it. Wow. Yes, I would forget you. Okay, so you take your you're gonna do 6 projects. Okay, champion. Yeah, to pick up the champion.
right, so we have a class of lightweight roasters now. The roasters have the same exact point breakdown as a single fryer. So we're 50 points on meat type, 40 points on condition, and 10 points on fur. These guys are just older and a little bit bigger than the fryers were. Number 3 is going to be an MS11D. ND, okay. Here's just a little bit flatter and overall style body type. He's got good width into that shoulder, but he hollows out at the midsection. He use a little bit more depth. It would help him have a deeper loin as well. He's also the most open and unfinished in condition of coat, and he doesn't quite have the muscling and firmness in flesh condition. Number 2 is going to be an ASB. Rabbit has a great depth of body, good width into that shoulder, but the actual loin itself is just a little bit more narrow. Doesn't quite have the depth of that loin. Pretty good finish to her coat in some areas, just a little bit unfinished still in that fur. Doesn't quite have the muscling and firmness of flesh condition as the first place animal. That's where most of the points are being won by this one here. 1. Okay, so 1 is going to be first. Very nicely profiled rabbit, good length to its body, good width into that shoulder. Definitely have a wider loin here, a deeper loin, good density texture to the coat. And this one definitely has the best muscling and firmness and flesh condition. Number 4 for the heavyweight roasters. It's going to be maybe a ZB1 or OB1, something like that. Okay, sorry. Pretty good length to his body. He just tends to peak a little bit too early and then slopes and flattens off over that hip. And again, this hindquarter is where we're carrying the most points on these commercial breeds for the meat quality. It just tends to be a little bit more narrow in that loin, not quite as deep in the loin. Very open and unfinished in his coat, but he does have good flesh condition. Number 3 is going to be an MHS216. Nice profile on this rabbit here, good length to the body, very nice width into that shoulder midsection, but the loin itself just a little bit more narrow again. Lacks a little bit of depth into that loin. Nice well-filled lower hindquarter though, very good finish and condition to the coat. Just lacks muscling and firmness and actual flesh condition. JD42. This one's really strong in the forequarter, like the shoulder, great width into that shoulder, but again, most of the meat is actually coming from the midsection and the hindquarters, where he tends to peak just a little bit early and has a little bit of a flat spot at the top of that hip. It's also in between coats. Across the back here where he's finished, he's got pretty good color and sheen to his coat, but he's just unfinished in the overall coat itself. So first will be an MSTS.
Yep.
Good length to her body. Very nice width into that shoulder. Still like to see just a little bit more depth and roundness over the hindquarter here. It would help the loin be a little bit deeper. Just a little thinner in density, but probably has the best finish in the coat in the class here. class champion between the any other breed. So the lightweight is actually going to be our class champion. Grand champion, sorry. Grand champion. And then I actually do like both of the lightweights better than the heavyweight ones. They tend to have a little bit more firmness in their flesh condition. So so reserve champion will also be to the lightweight, which was the second place animal in the class itself. Great job, everybody. So great job on these lightweights. They still feel great.
Okay, you got that? So your first is like the second is reserve. Okay. Light blue.
Okay, 6. All right, so we have 6 lightweight Californians. Number 6 is going to be a JS2. He's got a strong shoulder, but he's a little bit longer through that midsection. He's also very rough in flesh condition. That's more so why he's in the 6th place today. He'll be a little bit rounder and deeper and fuller in that hind quarter. There's a really good fur condition though, good density, good texture, pretty good finish. Nice point color on him as well. Number 5 is going to be a JS9. Really stronger type animal here, good length to his body, very nice width into that shoulder. He does have just a little bit hollow at the actual loin here though. He could use a little bit more depth to his loin. Nice well-filled lower hind quarter, just very open and unfinished in his coat condition today. Number 4 is going to be SA125. It's got just a little bit longer and lower through that shoulder. Normally you can overlook that part, doesn't carry the most points. He does have a better width into that loin. Pretty well filled lower hind quarter, just like to see him be a little bit rounder and deeper. He does tend to just be a little bit flatter in a overall style body type. Pretty good density and texture to his coat. He's just a little bit unfinished in his coat. JS10 is going to be 3rd. Really nice rabbit here. He's got a very nice length to his body, good width into that shoulder. Try to whip into that midsection loin as well. Nice, well-filled lower hindquarter. Pretty densely texture to his coat. He just has some staining on him, kind of takes away a little bit of that condition. So ideally, we're thinking normally that you would pelt out these rabbits. If you're going to butcher them for meat, you're also going to sell the pelt. So you want it to be nice and clean, well-conditioned. Two really nice rabbits here. JS4 is going to be second. It's a very nice profiled rabbit. Looks very good. Good length to her body, good width. Very nice step, nice little lower hindquarter. Just being beaten by an animal that if you were to touch the first place one, it has so much muscling and firmness in the actual flesh condition that it's hard to beat the rabbit that's up here in first place. So first place is an SA126. Good length to his body, beautiful width throughout, super wide loin, very nicely well-filled lower hindquarter. If anything, could be a smidge deeper in body type, but he's got so much muscling and firmness and flesh condition. It's actually got really nice condition to his coat as well. It's nicely finished, good density texture. So all of these guys can go back. Actually, I'll keep the second one here, just in case. So I'll keep two on the end here, our first and second place ones. So first place one, second place. So I will keep these two. The rest of these guys can go back then. heavyweight roasters for the Californians. Number 8 is going to be a 220CR. Trevor has tons of depth of body, but really lacks some width of body to balance. Just more narrow from that shoulder, more narrow into that midsection. Doesn't quite have the width to balance. Does have pretty good depth to the loin though. A little thinner in density. Good texture, just not quite finishing coat. So this one can go back. Number 7 is going to be a CK211. Okay. Pretty light to her body, really nice width into that shoulder. Could be a little bit wider and deeper at that loin. Pretty well filled lower hindquarter, just very open and unfinished in the coat in comparison to some of the other ones in the class. Also has a little bit of extra loose flesh condition up around that shoulder. Number 6, SA1. Pretty light to his body. This one is definitely one of those ones where he's got more forequarter than he does hindquarter. Really nice width into that shoulder. Just doesn't carry that width into the loin and midsection. Nice well-filled lower hindquarter though. This one also has a little bit of looser, extra flabby flesh condition up around that shoulder and isn't quite finished in coat. Number 5, JS8. Okay. Nope, definitely 8 on the end. Good length to her body, tons of depth of body on this rabbit. The loin itself could use a little bit more width. It does have good depth of loin. Could use a little bit more fullness at that lower hindquarter. And this one's also open to unfinished in coat and has some staining across her back too. Okay, so those 3 can go back. And then we've got 4 up here. I'm gonna look at them again. Number 4 is going to be an SA129. Nice tidy rabbit. Good length to his body, good width into that shoulder. Lots of muscling and firmness and flesh condition. This one out of the 4 up here is probably the most unfinished in coat. That one stays. This one goes back. Three really nice rabbits here. I like different things about each of them. JS7 is going to be 3rd. Very nice profile rabbit. Very nice length to his body. Good width into that shoulder. Pretty good depth. Just being halted. He looks really nice, but doesn't have the muscling and firmness and flesh condition as the other 2 rabbits up here. However, he does have a beautiful coat. Very nice condition. Good density, texture. Just needs a little bit more of the actual meat-producing qualities. Number 2 is going to be an SA131. So he's got a real nice profile on him too. Very nice width into that shoulder, good width and real smooth transition into that midsection. Nice well-filled lower hindquarter. Doesn't quite have the finish of coat on him, but the fur, as we talked about, only 10 points. Got a lot of muscling and firmness and flesh condition. SA130. It's going to be first. It's one of those rabbits where I go to pick it up and it tenses up and you can just feel all the muscling and firmness in that flesh condition. Great width of body. Can maybe use just a smidge more depth of body, but so much muscling and firmness in that condition, as I mentioned. Could use a smidge more finish to this coat, but carries the least amount of points. Nice rabbit. Okay, so the California hens up here, we saw our first and our second for the lightweights, and then the first and second for the heavyweights. We'll pick a champion and a reserve. Today, the champion and the reserve are going to be to the heavyweight Californians. They have so much muscling and firmness and flesh condition, it's hard to overlook. It's very important. So congratulations to our heavyweight Californians.
Gone
Okay, so we have 4 lightweight champagnes. So when we're judging the meat classes, we're really not looking at necessarily the breed standards, and normally these guys would judge a good bit on their color too, but that's not a criteria at all for when we're actually judging these meat classes, so we're not looking at the color at all. Number 4 is going to be R1. This guy's just very long in that shoulder. He's longer through that midsection. Pretty good depth over that hip. Nice well-filled lower hindquarter. Just lacks a lot of width of body to balance with that depth. Not quite finished in coat. Nice density to his coat though. Number 3 is going to be an MX. Nicely tight throughout. He's got a good length to his body, good width into that shoulder, nice depth over that hindquarter. Very well filled lower hindquarter on him. Just faulting him more in the coat today. He's got this coarser texture. Probably just be cleaned up a little bit. Maybe it wouldn't be there quite as much, but he also lacks a little bit of density and finish to his coat. Number 2 is going to be LX. Good length to his body, very nice depth of body on this guy. He just doesn't quite have the firmness and muscling and flesh condition as the first place animal, or quite the finish of his fur condition either. So first is going to be an F1B. So he's going to be our lightweight class winner. Nicely balanced type-wise. Could still use maybe a little bit more width into that shoulder, more width into his midsection, but he does have the depth of body. Pretty well filled lower hindquarter, and as I mentioned, he's got the best muscling and firmness and flesh condition, probably because he does this all day. He also has good fur condition to him. So I'm going to keep these 2 here. This is my first and second. These 2 can go back. Number 2 for the heavyweight is going to be F1A. Nice heavy guy. He's got a good length to his body. Really nice start into that shoulder. Could maybe a little bit deeper over that hip and hindquarter. He does get a little bit narrower at the actual loin. Nice well-filled lower hindquarter on him though. Good density, good texture. Just not quite as finishing coat as the first place animal. First is going to be an MZ131. This rabbit definitely has the best muscling and firmness and flesh condition, probably the best coat condition as well. Pretty good width into that shoulder. If anything, maybe does peak a little bit soon, has a little bit of a flat spot at the top of the hip. Needs a little bit more width in the actual midsection loin as well. Okay, so we still have our lightweight class winner up here, and then we have the first and second in the heavyweight class. I do like the lightweight class animal, but I do feel like the balance of body type is a little stronger on the 2 heavyweights. So the champion and reserve champion for the Champagnes is going to be the heavyweights. Yes.
I skipped over that.
New Zealand. Number 2 is going to be a PHL 111. Good length to her body. She just has a little bit of a low dip at that shoulder. Does have really nice width into that midsection. Good depth into that loin. Nice, well-filled lower hindquarter. However, she's very open and unfinished in her coat. Kind of spoils that condition. She also has some loose, flabby, fresh condition up around that shoulder. So first will be NN. Nicely typed rabbit. Very nice profile. Very nice placement to that high point. Good width into that shoulder. Good width into her midsection. Could be a little bit fuller at that lower hindquarter. Really nice density, texture of the coat. Good finish. Just a little steamed in that coat. So since those are the only 2 New Zealands, the first place one will be champion New Zealand, and then the second place one will be reserve champion. Great job, guys. So we have 4 roasters up here for their classes of the breeds that they had. They're all good examples of the breed that they represented. I think we talked about earlier, obviously the meat type is most important, and then the condition of the animal, and then the fur is the least amount of points. Today the animal that I feel has the best qualities in those areas is going to be the Californian. So he is going to be the grand champion roaster.
Going for the reserve. The second place of the winner goes to Tennessee.
I'll look at it now. We swapped in our Californian over here, so we're picking a reserve champion for the roasters. And I do think that the New Zealand and the Champagne have great profiles on their bodies, but almost when you're judging a meat class like this, you should be able to almost do it with your eyes closed. So it's really about the feel of the body, the feel of the muscling, the feel of the actual coat itself. And I still feel like the Californian meat's that the best. It has a super wide loin, very nice depth into that loin. That's where we're going to get the meat from. So the Californian will also be the reserve champion roaster. Overall market champion between our fryer champion, which was a Californian, and also our roaster champion, which was also a Californian. So I think, I want to say it was a little bit unfair, but these poor little fryers are less than 10 weeks old, so rabbits, typically start to wean around 7 weeks, and then we separate them from their moms at like 8 weeks. So this poor guy is pretty young. They often don't have the same muscling and firmness and condition or the size that our older ones do, so the roasters are usually under 6 months old, but they have a lot more time to mature and develop. For those reasons, the roaster is going to be the overall market champion. Again, really appreciate everyone's patience. We have one more opportunity for these grand champions, for these market classes. Farmers Cooperative is an amazing supporter of the Rabbit Project and the Poultry Rabbit Turkey Barn. And every year, Richard O'Hara at Farmers Cooperative sponsors what is called an FCA rabbit. So after we've done the show, we go through and The rabbits that were in first place in your class that did not get a grand or reserve can